What's up, Doc?
What up? What up? What up? Welcome back to the fifth floor. We go and actually take a look back at that 90s iconic show, Martin. Now, in this series, I go and actually break down all the trivia, the quotes, the cameos, give you a little bit peek behind the curtain, deep dive into some of the careers, things that you might have actually missed, all kinds of things of the Martin series. So I give you that entire flavor, as well as I let you know what's going on in the world during the time that this particular episode premiered. Like that? Hopefully you do, and you go and actually click a like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. But let's get on down to it. So, episode 7 in season 1 is called The Parents Are Coming, and it premiered October 8th, 1992. Now, if you don't want to go ahead and actually get a vibe or the flavor of what we were dealing with in the world at large and kind of know a little bit about the culture, what was going on in this episode premiere, go ahead and actually look down below. I have the timestamps down below that you could go ahead and actually just start looking at my breakdown of the episode. For all the rest of you, let's take a look and see what's going on in the world at that time. Global headlines go like this. We actually have an ongoing conflict that's actually labeled as the Bosnian War. The siege of Sarajevo continued to dominate international headlines as the UN struggled to provide humanitarian aid amongst escalating violence in the Balkans. So some traumatic things going on in Eastern Europe. Also having October 4th, 1992, a El Al Flight 1862, a Boeing 747 cargo plane crashed into an apartment complex in Amsterdam, killing 43 people. So some very tragic circumstances going on in Europe, mid-Europe, West Eastern Europe, and things like that. So bad things going on there. Looking at North America and our headlines, we actually didn't have a whole lot going on television news. In one of the most controversial moments in television history, Sinead O'Connor ripped up a photo of Pope John Paul II on Saturday Night Live on October 3rd, and it was in protest of child abuse within the Catholic Church. We won't hash that out on this particular channel, but unfortunately, that woman was ahead of her time. In other news, we actually had October 1st, Cartoon Network officially went on the air, forever changing the landscape of cable television. Now, for me, I was a teenager when that happened, but still, just seeing that cartoons 24/7 come on and exist was phenomenal. And I'm sure all millennial kids absolutely loved it that came up into that. Another cultural note, on October 8th, the original Mortal Kombat video game was released in arcades, sparking a massive national debate over violence in gaming. So you folks out there that wonder about E for everyone and MMA for mature audiences and T for teens, all that kind of stuff, all that rating stuff, it did not exist before Mortal Kombat. Now, Mortal Kombat wasn't the only one that pushed the envelope, wasn't the only one that people had questions about, but it pushed the conversation forward, and we eventually got those rating systems for video games. Let's take a look at the top 5 music Billboard songs. Number 5, Jump Around by House of Pain. Number 4, Baby 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 by TLC. Number 3, Humping Around by Bobby Brown. Number 2, Sometimes Love Just Ain't Enough, Patti Smith with Don Henley. And staying into number 1, Staying Power, End of the Road by Boyz II Men. And last but not least, on the big screen, we have number 5, Sneakers. Number 4 was a new premiere, Hero, with Dustin Hoffman. Another new premiere, Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck. Number 2, another new release, The Mighty Ducks, starring Emilio Estevez. And for its second week at number 1, The Last of the Mohicans. So there we actually have all the culture wrapped up. When this episode premiered, you know what was going on in the world. Let me go ahead and actually start breaking down this episode. So premiering on October 8th, 1992, the 7th episode, The Parents Are Coming, has a runtime of 23 minutes. It was filmed in Stage 31 in Universal Studios, directed by Chuck Vincent, and 2 writers are credited of Jane Millmore and Billy Van Zandt. Synopsis for this episode goes like this. Martin makes a fool of himself in front of Gina's conservative parents. Simple, direct, you know it's got some things going on there with meeting the parents for the first time. It's actually premiered with a ratings of 14.4 million people tuned in to see this particular episode. Now, with all that being said, we've done our setup. Let's get into the episode. As always, we have our monologue with Martin. And again, this is a seventh episode. They've all actually contained a monologue. This one is actually detailing the hypocrisy of parents telling us to not lie as kids, but then conveniently, when a bill collector calls, we're encouraged to lie, say that they're not quite around. So Martin outlines that story, and while the story in of itself, like it's a nice little anecdotal joke or what have you, I find it to be like his weakest monologue so far. It's more like a chuckle versus like really something that really makes me laugh or what have you. So let's say like this is the weakest monologue. It wasn't horrible, but it was okay. So I'm gonna let you go and actually peep it out a little bit, and then we'll break down the actual episode itself.
We had just come home from church, and my mother started yelling, "Who wrote Martin on the living room wall in red crayon?" I think Martin Luther King did it. She said, "Think again." I said, "D. Martin." She said, "What did I tell you about lying?" "Oh, Ma, you a trip. When the man from the gas company called, you ain't home. Now, Ma, go to your room until you stop lying." She put me out. I love you, Ma.
This episode starts in Gina's apartment where Martin is sitting on the couch watching Scary Program, which we actually kind of find out is that it's Godzilla. This is how we find out that it's a Godzilla thing.
All right. Trust me on this. All right, Godzilla's coming down the street. Don't look back. Trust me. Don't look back. Oh, I told you don't look back. He always squashes people that looks back.
And while Martin is watching it into it, Gina's actually going around picking up all of Martin's stuff that he has around there. He's not a slob or anything like that, but it's around there. And Martin thinks like, hey, did I do something? But no, Gina actually reveals to Martin that her parents are actually visiting from out of town. If I am not mistaken, even though they don't say it here, she's actually from Philly. So, that they're actually coming up to go ahead and actually visit. Find out it's because there's a conference in town, things of that nature. And so they're going to go ahead and actually have dinner with her parents. And of course, she's nervous. She doesn't want them to know that he lives there. And that's no different because Martin didn't want his mom to know that she stayed there or anything like that. Because they're not living together, but they spend obviously a lot of time over each other's homes. So that's a big deal for them. But anyways, as we kind of proceed on there, we kind of see that, Gina's nervous because her dad is strict, hard on boyfriends and things like that. And Martin is putting in his head that he's going to go and actually be on his best behavior to try and impress her father. And we all know it's very difficult to go ahead and actually press a woman's father, especially if he is, got it together. He's got his ish together. He's conservative, maybe a little bit staunch or whatever. Like we've all been there in those situations or what have you. So some nerves are going to actually get worked out.
You don't know my father. He can be very intimidating.
What do you mean, babe?
Well, he made my last boyfriend cry, and he was a Muslim.
Damn.
Please be on your best behavior, and please wear a tie.
He made a Muslim cry?
Uh-huh.
You know what? I won't just wear no tie. I wear a bow tie.
But as everything continues on and we're kind of transitioning out of Gina's apartment, there's actually a funny line and announcement coming from the Godzilla announcer that kind of is impending, talking about fear and kind of like a voiceover of like the impending fear coming. Obviously, it's an allusion to the pending fear of Gina's father coming and all that kind of stuff, and the fear that kind of invokes into Martin. The announcer that actually does that is Bentley Kyle Evans as the announcer. You've heard his name plenty of times in these first few episodes. He's one of the most prolific writers and producers in the Martin series, what have you. So he actually had the little voiceover.
He's coming! Run for your life! Run for your life! Oh, forget it. You haven't got a chance.
Now we're going to go ahead and actually transition over to the radio station where Martin, again, always is talking about how his life is going, right? So we actually have him in there, and Sean is in there being an engineer, doing his usual thing or what have you. But we get him actually talking to one of his callers and talking about how uh, women standing by your man, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a hilarious call. This is a D again. Remember, that's played by Benny R. Archberg. And I told you, D from the car wash is absolutely hilarious. Check this out.
Hey, Martin, this is D down the car wash. You know, my woman's father hated me, but my woman stood by me, right to the end. When he tried to run me down with his car, she stood by me. When he tried to poison me with pesticides, she stood by me. When he tried to shoot me with a shotgun, she stood by me.
Man, what happened?
Well, I ducked, and he shot her by mistake, man.
Nah, partner, that's stupidity. Ladies, if you meet a man named D, all right, don't stand too close, and please remember to duck. Yo, this is our last.
And there you go. So as we kind of continue on in the radio station, and there's another fun exchange with Stan and Sean about how Stan constantly tricks Sean into go ahead and actually doing things for him and all this kind of stuff. It's just like, dude, Sean be just on pins and needles around Stan. Stan is just no good, trifling, all this kind of stuff.
Sean, I saw you touching my Cadillac again.
No, I didn't touch your car.
That's right. Hey, look, boss.
Shut up, Martin. You were putting your clammy hands all over my tail wax, weren't you?
No, I wasn't.
Well, maybe I'm hallucinating. Maybe I'm out of my freaking mind.
No. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go down there right now, and I'll wash your car.
Okay.
So Sean leaves the room, and it's just Martin and Stan there talking about, Martin getting a little bit of advice, telling Stan that, hey, meeting Gina's parents and things like that. And of course, Stan always has a unique perspective on how to go ahead and actually handle the situation. So take a look at Stan's advice.
Oh, look, bro, no problem. Just do what I do when I meet a girl's parents. Check out the mother, because that's what you're going to be dealing with in 20 years. And if she is a fat sow with warts, head for the hills while you can.
But what if Gina's mother looked great, man?
Then dump Gina and hit on the mother.
And in some ways, he's not quite wrong as far as like the picturing, right, of things. You should not go for the mama just because, of everything on there. But I think there is something to go that should be said for like, hey, look at, if mom is around, things like that, picture it, if you really like this girl, you think it's going to go far and things like that, you want to go and actually see what might be in your future. Just a thought process. Don't crucify me, women. If you do, sorry. Just guys thinking like how guys do. So then we transition to Martin's apartment, and he's actually there with the fellas getting ready to go out for the dinner with Gina's parents and getting some advice. He's saying that he's nervous, he don't want to blow it, and kind of expressing, he thinks that, Gina could be the one, so he doesn't want to blow it or anything like that. And Tommy, of course, is being the voice of reason, saying like, hey, you got this, you're going to be all right. That you're just be conservative, be polite, all that kind of stuff, right? Cole's sitting up here telling him to go ahead and actually be himself, but be himself in a way of like how he is on the radio. And we already know that Martin ain't right on the radio, so that is horrible advice to give somebody. And Tommy's like, nah, don't do that. You kind of want to bring the best of yourself. And actually, let's just be real. Both of them have a point. When I go in and actually meet someone's parents, you should be authentic to yourself to have your own voice, but it should be the polite version of yourself, right? You're on your best behavior. Don't say anything that's not true. Don't lie, but be courteous, be respectful, all that kind of stuff. Tone down whatever hyperness that you have, or if you're kind of a mellow person, kind of bring it up a little bit to show some excitement or what have you. There's an even medium there. But do you think that Martin knows how to go ahead and actually balance things right away? Yeah, me neither. Let's transition. Here we go ahead and actually are at Chez Maurice's. Before we go and actually meet Gina's parents, and we kind of go into the episode on here, I want to go and actually highlight the two actors that are playing her parents. First one is J.A. Preston as Dr. Cliff Waters. He actually has a TV and film career that spanned 40 years with 88 acting roles. Now, the role I remember him most from is playing the judge in A Few Good Men. That's just me. But I'm sure people have seen him for plenty of other things. He acted a lot in the 70s and 80s and whatnot. He's now retired from acting, and this was actually the first of 3 episodes that he had playing Gina's dad. Playing her mother is Judy Ann Elder as Nadine Waters, and another TV film veteran. And she actually started her earliest acting role started in 1971 all the way through today. She appears as Mrs. Waters in 6 episodes of Martin. Most people will also remember her as she replaced Harriet Winslow in Family Matters for a few episodes. I'm not sure what season that was, but it was very pronounced that she's a totally different character. I don't know. I don't know if they ever really think that we're going to notice that or not, but she went and actually did that. Her last accredited role was in 2020, so presumably she's still active, but probably not taking as many roles anymore. So those are the 2 people that are playing the parents, and we are meeting at Chez Maurice's, is what we've been told out there. And Gina's having time to go ahead and actually talk to her parents beforehand of like, hey, I really love him. I think he's going to be the one, or what have you, trying to calm everything down. We're told that Dr. Waters is a very successful chiropractor, and that he's down there for that convention or what have you. And he's very stoic. He's very matter of fact and whatnot in this fancy French restaurant. And they're ready to go ahead and actually just order. And then, of course, Martin now shows up, and he goes and actually hits him with a. Of course, right? And from the jump, you just know that he's going to go and actually take this left. Being just way too much, being over the top, all that kind of stuff. What I would say about this is that the nervous energy is real, right? Of meeting somebody's parents for the first time, things like that, especially a strong male role model as a father, or whatnot. That's the thing. But the some of the stuff of how he react, like, is like Martin is street smart, and I think he would have picked up on a lot of like social cues of when the father's trying to be sarcastic, or when he's trying to downplay or dismiss things for him. It's like he misses some of the cues or either bypasses it altogether. And it really bugged me about the character and the writing in this one. Like, just a couple of different things on there that kind of bothered me. I'll show you a couple of them here.
Well, shall we order? I believe the kitchen is still open.
Cool. I'm hungry.
We'll have the 82 Rothschild. Is that all right with you, Martin?
Did you say 82?
Yes, I did.
All right. Because if you say 83, I'm about to crack you in your head with the bottle.
So as we go and actually proceed, Martin ordering, fake it like he go and actually knows French. He don't know French. Gina's dad orders the wine, all that kind of good stuff. And they get into Martin, transition. Gina's trying to get him on track, like talking about something that he knows. And talking about he talked about what was going on for the day in his talk show. And talking about that, talking about one of the shows. Now, it wasn't today, but talking about past shows, talking about quack doctors and faith healers and chiropractors being like fake doctors or what have you. And of course, that's offensive because Dr. Waters is a chiropractor. So there's another thing that kind of ticked me off. It's like, so either Gina didn't tell Martin that her dad was a chiropractor before, or Martin forgot. In either kind of way on there, if you're meeting the parents on there, like, again, for me, plot hole or malfunction of the characters or whatever, just totally a thing. So doing that in his nervousness, Martin starts slipping up, doing things with, making stuff going there, all the way to the point where he spills water on Gina's mom, and then he's trying to clean it up.
I'm sorry.
Get your hands off of my wife!
He's trying to clean it up. And of course, everything else that happens in there. So then there's a complete, disaster or what have you. Transition to Gina's apartment. And here we go and actually see, Gina's disappointed in Martin, and how he went ahead and actually acted, buffoonish, over the top a little bit. Not all of it's his fault. And Gina kind of recognizes that. She kind of is going at Martin for his part, But you'll see later on that she actually comes at her dad from like him being, making Martin nervous and doing all this kind of stuff. And as they kind of talk, Martin's just saying like he's afraid that Gina's going to leave him if he had a bad impression. Her dad has a bad impression, which is a legit, fear to go ahead and actually have. But, got to have a little bit more faith in Gina, and y'all probably should be talking more because some of the stuff that's misunderstandings, whatever, would have been handled if y'all had conversations about, hey, this is what my parents is like, hey, this is what my mom's like do this, right? But I think that's both of their faults on there, and again, growing relationship, trying to figure it out. So they make up, and as they make up and get ready to go and actually do some things in there, Gina goes to the bedroom. Martin, starts getting undressed. They can go and actually happen. You hear the dad outside at the door, and he announces himself, and then he just comes on in. And at first, I was about to be like, "What the hell?" on there. So Martin hides behind the door. Gina's like, "What? Daddy, what are you doing here?" And I was like, this is gonna be crazy on their plot hole of like, why does he have a key to Gina's apartment and she lives like so far away? But they left the key in the door, and I can see that of them, Gina being mad and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of play the round chair weirdness of Martin trying to avoid being seen by her dad while he's in an undressed state. He got a beater on and his boxers on, but as they kind of go roundabout, and then he slips into the kitchen, boxers come off, and dad ends up going into the kitchen, thinks that he's going to discover Martin. Martin somehow sneaks past him in the kitchen. We don't see how that happens. Martin comes out in a trash bag and is out there saying like, hey, where I got to go and all this kind of stuff. Her mom comes in the front door. Dad comes back out of the kitchen or what have you. And Martin's just standing there in a trash bag looking stupid. Again, now we're at a full crescendo of not only disastrous dinner, but just embarrassment overall. Like, just sit down, right? You just feel bad for him overall. But Gina professes her love for Martin and that, y'all call it bad time or what have you. And Gina's mom turns out to be, very understanding. She said, hey, we barged in on y'all. Don't even worry about it. And, dad was just going and actually saying like, hey, I only want the best for my daughter. Is that so wrong? And it absolutely is not. But you got to lighten up, my guy. And the mom says, you love my daughter. You want the best for her. You seem to be a good guy. That's all we can ask for, right? So looking at both of those, and then we kind of come to an understanding that they're accepting of Martin, even though if the dad is kind of like, nah, right? And they end in a way of it's supposed to be like a recompense of the mom says like, hey, he's Martin's standing a little bit funny, aren't you? Help him with your chiropractic skills there, Cliff. And the seriousness, the smoothness of the dad here just cracks me up right here. Check this out.
Come here, Martin.
I don't want to.
Come here, Martin.
And I just thought that was funny. And then, of course, Martin being his silly self goes and actually does this.
That felt great. Call me later.
So that is the end of the episode. The parents are coming. So what did I think about it? Overall, a strong episode. I will say before the restaurant scene, it was subpar to me, only because we're looking at, you're looking at the monologue was one of his weaker monologues. The first apartment scene was just meant to kind of set the stage for everything else. So there wasn't really much jokes written there. The radio station thing had something like a funny joke as far as staying in his take on women and their moms or whatever. But nothing there stood out. Maybe the little D joke was kind of funny. When they went back to him getting advice from Tommy and Cole or whatever, I wasn't that entertaining, what have you. But once this episode hits in its final two scenes of at the restaurant and in Gina's apartment and the final one of just the silliness, slapstick, but also the love and understanding that Gina and Martin have for their relationship, that it can overcome, outside extremities and things like that. I thought that was funny. The overtness of Martin and what he was doing to kind of show off and trying to be in a dad's good graces or whatever was a little much. But of course, the sitcom slapstick comedy, all that kind of good stuff. I will say the writing for it was pretty decent, but like I said, some of the plot holes in there, some of the absurdness of two people that are supposed to be weary, like Martin is, or Gina's supposed to be very conscientious. How do you not tell Martin what your dad does, what your mom does, what's the nature of them? How do you kind of deal with that? Like they've been together for quite a while. These conversations should have already happened, and then for Martin to not pick up on certain social signals and things like that in the restaurant or what have you, it just that I don't like the way that they didn't write those characters a little bit smarter, a little bit less naive or what have you. The first one of the things on there that I think is actually funny is the first time one of the biggest quotes that have ever come out of Martin is "You go, girl." And up until this episode, you hadn't heard that. You'd heard like "You go, Gina," or "My baby," or whatever like that. But "You go, girl," as because it's attributed to this show a lot when he actually said that in a stand-up comedy before, but him using it in the show, this is the first time he actually used the phrase in the show, and it was actually good, using it.
Now, excuse me, but baby, who is this? You didn't tell me you had a younger sister? you go, girl.
At the restaurant or what have you. So I thought that was actually kind of a good one. Other intangibles on there, I think I like the characters of her parents. You could kind of see Gina being successful as she is. The way that she dresses, decorates, speaks, and things like that. She grew up in a very affluent, conservative household or what have you, but she still loves her man and like that. And Martin, despite all his faults and being oblivious sometimes, he still shows that he's willing to do what he can for Gina, and he's willing to even go ahead and actually be a fool and be apologetic for it. And that's what this show continues to be about. So second half of this episode really saves, I think, the whole episode from being where it was kind of like a boring or kind of throwaway episode. It comes out being, I would say, like a middle of the pack episode. It's not going to be one that I would rate like super high, but probably like middle of the pack. Once I go and actually start rating all the different episodes and things like that, I can see this kind of being a middle of the pack type of thing, and largely amounted due to the restaurant scene and then a little bit in the last scene. But there you go. That is my deep dive, my breakdown of season 1, episode 7. The Parents Are Coming. What did you think? Did you like it as much as I did? Do you think it's like middle? Do you think it's better than that? Do you think it's worse than that? Tell me if you liked it. If you liked it, then like me, right? If you want to share the episode, go ahead and actually subscribe to the channel. I'm going to continue to break these on down. But that is all that I have for you guys today. So again, like, share, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. But we're at the end. So you know what you got to do.
I've been waiting to say this all year, and I'm going to say it. And this is a good time. Get the stepping.
Cole? Huh? Cole, you're supposed to picture other folks' parents naked, not yours.
Now, don't you feel tough?
Yeah!
Don't you feel strong?
Yeah!
Don't you feel like going home?
Sure!
Then get the hell out of my apartment and take... Yo, what's this? I've been reading medical journals, right? You know what this is?
Oh, yeah. That's how you recognize a transvestite.
See, yeah, that's in the real world. But in the medical world, this is the Adam's apple.
Martin.
Back up a taste? Just a taste. Just give me some room. Hey. Okay, the door's gonna slam about now.